I hope you're super excited because I've decided today to answer a question that I get every single week. The question is about twin flames and soulmates. Do they exist? If so, what are they and how do I find mine?
About some of this bullshit that twin flame teachers tell you. So one of the things that they tell you is, oh, well, if you're thinking of them all the time, they're definitely thinking of you.
Twin flames are bullshit. So I wanted to share a little bit about my personal experience and some of my research and studies into this concept that I think has really taken over a lot of the metaphysical and consciousness world. And I don't really think that it's working for us, truthfully. I think that it's really putting a lot of pressure on our relationships and is creating a lot of undue stress and fragmentation. And I know it has for me. So throughout the course of my life, I've had some amazing, amazing women and goddesses just show up in my life. And at times I've had that consideration of like, wow, maybe this is the one for me. We'll go on that journey and we'll explore together. And I've been reflecting the same thing of having women show up in my life and say, hey, I have received and I've had guidance and synchronicity, which makes this really tricky because there's been a lot of synchronicity since this topic has been introduced around twin flames, where people get this affirmation. They get affirmation from other people that this person or this being was their twin flame. And then when challenges happen or when a breakup happens, a couple can no longer be together. Maybe they're very confused. As I thought they were my twin flame, and I thought that now that we found each other, we were going to have this happily ever after story ending. And why is this? So why does it not work? Let's explore that. I realize that when you have this concept of having the perfect other that's been really romanticized in our media and in our movies and in our stories, you know, there's a reason for that, and I think that it's very valuable, and at the same time it's created a distance and a longing, I find, within our culture and within ourselves, from the ultimate truth of who we are. And that brings me to the main reason why twin flames are bullshit, and twin flames are bullshit, and twin flames are bullshit, flames are bullshit, twin flames are bullshit.
This means that this same energy, this united consciousness, is projecting itself forward as you. It is also projecting itself forward as your boyfriend or girlfriend. It is also projecting itself forward as the living room couch. It is also projecting itself forward as the living room couch. It is also projecting itself forward as the living room couch. One thing, one expression in this universe is more important to you than any other is a misunderstanding, because it is all one thing, and ultimately, that is you. You are everything in existence.
That is that you are essentially having a romanticized relationship with separation. Right? Because twin flames is this concept that you as a soul, when you came to the earth, were split into two, a masculine and a feminine energy, and that masculine and feminine energy were put into two different people, and that those two people were set around the world kind of circumnavigating each other until they met and then have that epic ideal romance. And even in many of the more modern twin flame kind of concepts and books, it talks about the fact that yes, having your twin flame involves a lot of karmic challenges and these kinds of normal patterns we find in relationships.
And so that means everything in existence at the highest level is your soulmate and is your twin flame. The individuality which you are experiencing is in essence an illusion which was created in this universe for the purpose of expansion. So when we're talking about soulmates and twin flames, we have to be talking from a different dimensional perspective than the ultimate universal objective truth. perspective closer to the physical perspective that we have, which recognizes the difference and recognizes the individuality as a subjective truth. When most of us say twin flame or soulmate, what we mean is a soul connection or relationship between two halves of the same soul. The theory is, in the beginning of time, we were created as a perfect soul that was split into two soul halves, one female and the other male. Theory is that those two halves of one soul were cast upon earth to forever look for one another.
Putting a lot of pressure on our relationships and is creating a lot of undue stress and fragmentation. Flames are bullshit, in my opinion.
For each other, and once they finally met, they would reunite and be in love, and then leave this physical plane as one whole individual soul. This idea is flawed, as it ascribes traits to souls that are more physical than they are energetic. A soul is not a clump of energy, like a body is a clump of bones and flesh. To imply that a soul can be cut into two implies that it is a clump of energy. In reality, a soul is nothing more than a stream of consciousness.
Why should we believe that we have an immaterial soul that exists past our material death?
They are wondering about life's meaning and why death is such a tragic part of life and what happens at death. It is this last question that seems most on people's minds. Most people believe or want to believe that there is some part of us that lives on when we die. We cannot accept that this physical life is all there is. Since the beginning, it's always been this way. Virtually every civilization has held the belief that something of this life transcends death. It is embodied in the belief of the immortality of the soul. The idea that man has a spiritual soul housed in the body that is released at death. The idea of an immortal soul is best seen among the ancient Egyptians and the elaborate customs they created to preserve the body and provide for the soul in its journey into the afterlife. Elaborate drawings in the tombs depicted this belief. They show the way the soul would depart from this life and go to the life beyond. They mummified the body to preserve the physical. Food was buried with them along with clothing and weapons to assist the departed soul on its journey into the next life. But it is not just the Egyptians. Cultures from China to North America buried their dead in ways that show a belief in a soul that departs the body at death and lives on in another world. It's a universal belief. This belief is so important that it ranks as the fundamental question for theologians and philosophers. It centers on the question of what is a human being. Is man merely an animal, the highest form of life that has evolved on this planet? Or is he a unique being created for the special purpose by a creator God? If man has a soul that is immortal from some previous point of existence, then you must do something with that soul when it dies. That has led to other fundamental beliefs in the afterlife, ideas like a heaven or a hell or purgatory.
Comes into the midst of this reality and as a promise that all of this is going to make sense in the end, that somehow at the end of existence we're going to be all let in on the punchline and have a mighty laugh with Almighty God for eternity. Now, there's no evidence of that, and I think, therefore, this concept of the afterlife really functions as a substitute for wisdom. It functions as a substitute for really absorbing our predicament, which is that everyone is going to die. There are circumstances that are just catastrophically unfair. Evil sometimes wins, and injustice sometimes wins. And the only justice we're going to find in the world is the justice we make. And I think we have an ethical responsibility to absorb this really down to the soles of our feet. And this notion of an afterlife, the happy talk about how it's all going to work out and it's all part of God's plan, is a way of shirking that responsibility.
To duck the opening question, give myself a chance to repeat my answer. That would mean that anything that made you feel good or better was fine, which I think is a contemptible position, I'm sorry to say. And it would be as good as drugs, for example. And I don't believe, and in fact Marx never said that religion is just an opiate. But religion and the afterlife fantasy have these things in common. First, they're man-made. That's very important. They represent claims by humans to be able to interpret the divine and to give themselves power by doing so. We all admit we don't know, and that's because we can't know. So the people who have to leave the island right away are those who say they do, who for centuries have tyrannized and still do millions of human beings by claiming to hold the keys of heaven and hell. Leading to my second point, religion is totalitarian in its practice and its theory. It claims to know things it can't know, and it claims to have powers it cannot have. It says if you make the right propitiations and the right donations, you may get paradise, and if you don't, you may get an eternity of pain. That
false so-called spiritual teaching of the movement known as the New Age movement. It's feel-good pseudo-spirituality. And it's